Well, he is a stanchion for innovation, ingenuity. He is a leader in the broadcasting world. He is a maven in the industry. It is Todd Mason. So excited to have him with us, the driving force behind one of the biggest names in production right now, Broadcast Management Group, BMG, as it is known as well. This is an opportunity to dive into Todd's career, look at what he's done, look at how he's done it, and what makes him inspirational throughout his journey in the biz. I'm Bryan Fenley. I'm an anchor at Fox Sports Radio and a broadcaster for the USTA. This is the On to Something podcast. And Todd, thanks for doing this. I feel like as big as you've become and as fast and growing as your company is, this is a tale of where is Todd Mason today with all the hubs you have, how globally your company has been. This has become your reality all over the place you've become.
That's very flattering to say, a little embarrassing, but I really appreciate it a lot. It's not really Todd Mason, but it's the team that we have at BMG is really amazing. We have a very strong culture. Everybody does everything. Everybody is adrenaline junkies. That's a requirement to join BMG. You have to love live television. You have to love that, and it's got to be in your blood. And it either is or isn't. And so we're very fortunate. We do have a nationwide, full-time staff. We're in New York, LA, Chicago, Las Vegas, and DC. And with the way technology has evolved, we're able to leverage that talent. It used to be, we had our New York team for New York shows, our LA team for LA shows, etc. Now it's one big team that can work on shows no matter where they are because of our new Remy Broadcast Center that just happens to be in Las Vegas, but that's really almost irrelevant. It's the Cloud Broadcast Center that our team, our full-time staff, and our freelancers nationwide can tap into to produce shows.
Your first show, if you want to call it, was a church service that when you were 15 years old, you became infatuated with the production element of it. And as we look back at your humble beginnings, that seemed to spawn the intrigue in the business that has led itself to become such a successful career. What was it during those early stages, Todd, where you became so enamored with the thought of production and the fact that this is something that you had taken a liking to and you could really have an incredible career thereafter?
Well, that's interesting. When that first Sunday that my family decided to try this new church, it wasn't a new church, but it was new to us. It was a big church. And I sat down and I noticed the television cameras and I'm like, wow, what is that? Obviously, I hadn't seen that in a church before and I really got fascinated by it. And so I was fortunate enough to be able to volunteer at a very, very early age. There was an age limit of 18 at the time and they made an exception for me. And, I was able to learn everything, started as a camera grip, there was one camera that was roving and I was a grip. And then I got to learn the camera and then I started directing and, I got that bug and it was on live every Sunday. So, I started in my first exposure to television production was live production and I never looked back and just fortunate.
So before your career exploded and you took off in broadcast technology and that industry, and obviously you do sports, you do news, live component stuff all over the world, but you had a little stint as a sales representative, if I'm not mistaken. And
wow, you have done your due diligence.
Well, I don't want to waste your time. You're a very busy guy. As this must be like your 10th Zoom today. So I want to make sure that it's well worth your time, given how busy you are. But you had this little stint that was outside of the business. And what I read is that you had so much success, even doing that. So essentially whatever you do is becoming like a gold standard, that you became an early motivational speaker by what you were able to do as a sales rep. So what is it just about the way you command a room and the way you conduct business, no matter what field or industry it is, where you're able to inherently have a level of success that you're driven to achieve?
Well, not everything is always successful. You have sometimes, if you push the envelope, you're going to make mistakes from time to time. I try to, with our team, encourage people to push the envelope, to create new ways, better ways of doing things. And sometimes when you do that, it doesn't always work out. But what you need to do is recognize when it's not working out and pivot. The biggest problem people can make when they make a mistake is not owning it and just continuing to go down that path. So I've always tried to practice that myself and try to encourage that on our, with our BMG team, because we encourage innovation. I was a born serial entrepreneur. I went to school majoring in business administration. And so even though, I had this great opportunity to get involved in television at a very early age and freelance all through college, for some reason, it didn't click. I loved it so much. Just didn't click that I could do that for a living. And so I did. My first job out of college was in sales and working for Transamerica. And I started actually while I was still in college working with them. And they, again, I knew that the guy that ran the agency. I played tennis with his wife, my best friend and I, and so she thought I was mature enough to get, to work there, talked him into it. So again, I was able to get an early start, and because, fortunately I did pretty well, they kind of exploited my youth, at the time.
Sure. Yeah. Todd Mason is
to other groups. Yeah.
No question about it. Todd Mason is with us. He's the founder of Broadcast Management Group. I'm Bryan Fenley, a broadcaster for USTA and Fox Sports Radio. So I was reading all of the people's recommendations of you on LinkedIn, those who had worked under your tutelage or had been a beneficiary of your work at BMG. And I loved one of the comments, one of the praiseworthy notes that was sent on your behalf. And it was somebody saying that Todd doesn't have the word no in his vocabulary, where you are the ultimate problem solver. What is it about having that mindset that you think is critical to satisfying your clients, but also being one who makes yourself that much more coveted when people are looking for that outlet like yourself and all of the different abilities that your company can provide?
Bryan, I think that when you start out in live television and you're live to air, you can't say no. I mean, it has to work, you have to deliver. So there is no, well, let's rethink that and we'll look at this again tomorrow. I mean, tomorrow is now and you're living it now. So I think, that just, I started that again, at an early age, and that's just been part of my mantra. You always figure a way to make it happen. And so, we listen to our clients and listen to what their goals and objectives are. One of the things that's very important to me working with a new client relationship is finding out what are their metrics of success. And then I keep those and our team keeps those in our primary focus throughout the whole project. And there's no option but success. And so that's just my belief, and try it with every day, with everything I do, and try to attract other people on our team that share that same commitment.
Yeah, your resume speaks for itself. And I want to dive back into when you were helping launch a couple ESPN programs and Around the Horn and Pardon the Interruption. And what was it like being a part of that? And obviously you had your fingerprints on a lot of other programming and content with ESPN, but by you being able to inject your voice onto that, what did that look like when they came to you and they said, "Hey, Todd, help us here and let's build this thing together"?
ESPN has always been an amazing client, and I've been fortunate they have amazing staff that works there. And I was able to work with some of the most entrepreneurial individuals within the ESPN organization. And so they were at the time launching a lot of shows. And and we met and started talking about, the first one was Pardon the Interruption, and they had a name, they had talent that they had in mind, but beyond that, it wasn't baked yet. And so early on, Eric Rydholm, who's still the executive producer of that show, is amazing creative talent. We sat around a room and started, spitballing ideas. And really, I looked at my role in the room was technically to figure out how to make their ideas work on air. And because technically with Pardon the Interruption, there were a lot of things that had never been done before. The rundown around on Pardon the Interruption has been copied over and over again, but that was Eric's idea. But technically we had to figure out how to make that happen, and the sound effects and the triggers and all of that. And then we did Around the Horn was even far more technically challenging to do, with all of the remotes then that were a bigger deal at that time than they are today to make happen, and the whole gaming aspect of it. So it's, again, problem solving and trying to listen to all the possibilities without creating any limitations. And that's my goal in any project is, how can we create the most compelling event, and let's forget about the technical part. We'll figure that out. And then, of course, ultimately, I look at myself as the one that needs to figure that out with my team.
I guess this should have been a foreshadowing, because you have two grandparents that were professional golfers, if I'm not mistaken. And so
that didn't pass through to me.
Didn't? What is your golf game like?
Oh, it's horrendous. I don't play. I played for a while. I like to be good at what I do, and there's just no hope for me in golf. So,
well, I think you've picked a good industry to focus your time and talents in. And it was this year where you brought up the whole Remy broadcast and what that's done. And you've created a broadcast hub where, the whole remote world of broadcasting has taken off. How have you been able to stay ahead of the game in that realm and be a benefit to all of these clients, where you can come in and provide services that perhaps other companies just don't have the manpower or don't have the abilities to be able to pull off yet?
I look at, number one, I credit the sports networks as really saving television during COVID, because sports, namely ESPN, but Fox and the other networks were already doing Remy productions way before COVID. And I had my eye on what they were doing and seeing some of the benefits beyond the travel, but really tapping it. I was looking at it from a talent perspective and being able to hire the best people for each, event. And so I was already, figuring out how to capitalize on what they were doing with Remy production and trying to take it to another level that would apply to BMG and how we service our clients. And then COVID happened, and very few things have been positive out of COVID. But one thing in our industry is it really propelled our industry probably 5 years technologically. We were able, all of the networks were able to keep programming on the air, largely because of what the sports networks had already figured out. And then they just had to figure out how to apply it. For us in our new Remy Broadcast Center, because technology has advanced so much in the last 18 months, we're able to have this cloud broadcast center with centralized technology and tap into talent that's everywhere. The talent doesn't have to come to the technology. We take the technology cloud-based to the talent, and we can book the best people on the show. So if that person happens to be in New York and I've got an event that's in Austin, Texas, I don't have to fly them there. I can tap into them right there at their home, or they can go to our office in Times Square and tap into our broadcast center in Las Vegas. So it improves talent, which improves the quality of the event, and it also happens to be budget friendly.
Yeah, and as far as tapping into things, you mentioned to me that sports is becoming a growing part of what your company is doing and beginning to expand and branch out in that realm. The growing things that you're doing, one of the things that has been announced is your ability to work with the Big West and put together all of these different broadcasts that are coming up. why why have you become, and what you've done and your mission, have you become much more, you've always been such an appetizing company for sports and being able to put together some of the best work. But what was it like to get that opportunity with the Big West, and what makes you such a dominant force for people to want to come to you right now more than ever before? Or obviously it's always been at a high level where you have always wanted the people to come to support you and your company, but it's just continuing to grow and grow and grow and increase.
Dan Butlery, the commissioner of the Big West, is very innovative. And what he's doing and the direction he's leading his team at the Big West is, is pretty phenomenal. So, what they announced, last week, it wasn't, the primary thing wasn't the partnership with BMG, although we're really honored to be partnering with them on these 13 events, but it's the first time ever them producing 13 championship events. It's not just basketball. Basketball's obviously very, very important, but now they're covering a lot of other men and women's sports. And so they chose us as a partner. And I think we're a great partnership. It's a great partnership because they're entrepreneurial, we're entrepreneurial. They're about high quality content, and we're all about high quality. And we're able to do it in an innovative way and approach. And so those are the kind of clients we look for, is clients that are growing. And the Big West is definitely on a growth mode. This is just the start. This is going to be huge for the Big West and their schools, and it's going to be great for BMG. And we're excited that they chose us to be their partner.
Let me leave you with this, and I totally agree with you, Dan Butterly. Amazing man. Have had him on here to talk about what he's doing with the conference in being able to grow what you've done. And for you personally, why have you been able to grow and grow and grow, but do it in a way where you're able to stay, and we talked about this a little bit, but ahead of the trend? It's almost like, Todd, you see what's happening before it happens. And how are you able to plug into that?
My focus is really about how to produce better and better content, from a creative perspective and meet budget needs, because the two have to work together. And so I love technology, and I think technology can really assist that. So I was with a group called Trevecca Henninger Editing Tools in the 90s that helped usher in nonlinear editing to feature films, where it was all being done in steam back then, and nonlinear editing was already being worked on television. We were able to bring it to feature film. It completely revolutionized that industry. And then with ESPN in early 2000, when we launched Cold Pizza in New York, the facility we built, we were able to produce the shows at a third of a budget of a comparable show, because we were able to do it in a completely nonlinear infrastructure, from transmissions acquisition to tape playback to editing to re-airs. Never hit tape. Now that seems, of course today, but back then it was the first time it had ever been done before. And so an example, Good Morning America required about 7 tape ops for their show at that time. We had 1, and we were doing the same level of content. So Remy is that next big thing that is able to put more emphasis on quality, flexibility at hiring the best people, and addressing budget. Budgets are always a concern, no matter where you are, no matter how big your budget is. You can never have a budget too big, and so it's how to maximize whatever budget that is to show for the viewers, so the viewers keep coming back. And that's really the way we look at everything.
Todd Mason is clutch. You don't get better than what he's been able to put together with the broadcast management group, and with the mentality that you never say no to anything. No wonder he's a beloved, everybody wants to come to him, sort of growing force, developing and globally in the broadcast field. I'm Bryan Fenley. Todd, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you, Bryan. Really appreciate it.